Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Ark of the Covenant. Where is the most dangerous object in history? Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. The Ark of the Covenant is described in Exodus as a gold-covered wooden box containing the 10 Commandments. According to the Bible, it killed thousands of people who touched it without authority, destroyed armies by its presence, and brought down the walls of Jericho. It disappeared from the historical record around 586 BC when Babylon destroyed Jerusalem. It has not been seen since. The Ark is not merely a religious artifact. It is, if the biblical accounts are taken at face value, the most physically dangerous object ever constructed. The Book of Samuel describes 70 men of Beth Shemesh dying when they looked inside it. The Philistines captured it and suffered outbreaks of tumours until they returned it. Uzzah touched it to steady it on a cart and was struck dead instantly. Whatever the Ark was, it was treated with a terror that suggests people believed, with good reason, that it could kill them. 3,000 years after it vanished, it has not been found. Where did the most dangerous object in the ancient world go? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the global puzzle of unexplained ancient construction, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The sky was the original clock, calendar, and map. Before writing, before money, before cities, human beings looked up and organized their lives around what they saw. The position of the sun at solstice told them when to plant and when to harvest. The rising of specific stars marked the seasons. The phases of the moon governed ceremonial calendars in cultures from Ireland to India. Our ancestors were not casual observers of the night sky. They were meticulous, obsessive, and precise in a way that rivals modern astronomical science. This precision is encoded in stone at sites around the world. Newgrange in Ireland is aligned so precisely that sunlight enters its inner chamber only during the 5 days around the winter solstice, and it has done so every year for more than 5,000 years. The pyramids of Giza are oriented to true north with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees. Stonehenge tracks both the midsummer sunrise and the midwinter sunset, as well as the 18-6-year lunar cycle. These alignments are not accidental. They were engineered with mathematical precision by cultures we have long underestimated. What drove this obsession with celestial mechanics? Partly practical. Agriculture depends on knowing the seasons, but partly something more profound. Ancient cultures believed the sky was alive, that the movements of stars and planets determined the fates of kingdoms and harvests. In this worldview, encoding celestial cycles into permanent stone was not merely useful but sacred. The great monuments of the ancient world are, among other things, the most durable clocks ever built. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter, the core evidence surrounding the Ark of the Covenant. Where is the most dangerous object in history, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The ark is described in Exodus 25 as a rectangular chest of acacia wood measuring 2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5 cubits, overlaid inside and out with pure gold. It was fitted with gold rings and carrying poles because no one was permitted to touch the ark directly. The lid, called the mercy seat, was flanked by 2 golden cherubim with outstretched wings. The ark contained the 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, Aaron's rod, and a jar of manna. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the ark is last mentioned in the Hebrew Bible before the Babylonian conquest. 2 Chronicles records it being placed in Solomon's temple around 957 BC. After the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II destroyed Jerusalem and the temple in 586 BC, the ark disappears from the scriptural record entirely. The second temple, built after the Babylonian exile, was constructed without an ark. Ancient sources note its absence explicitly. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The book of 2 Maccabees records that the prophet Jeremiah warned of the Babylonian invasion, removed the ark and the sacred fire from the temple, and hid them in a cave on Mount Nebo, the mountain from which Moses viewed the promised land, sealing the cave and promising it would not be found until God gathered his people again. This is one of the oldest written explanations for the ark's disappearance. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims to possess the genuine Ark of the Covenant, kept in the chapel of the tablet at the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum, Ethiopia. Access is restricted to a single guardian monk, who alone may look upon it and who serves for life. No outside examination, religious, academic, or governmental, has ever been permitted. The Ethiopian tradition holds that the Ark was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the Babylonian Chronicles. Cuneiform tablets recording Nebuchadnezzar's campaigns list the treasures taken from Jerusalem's temple in considerable detail. Gold and silver vessels, cult objects, and furnishings are enumerated. The Ark of the Covenant is not mentioned among them. This absence has been interpreted in two ways. The Ark was hidden before the Babylonians arrived, or the Babylonians did not recognize it as the Ark and listed it under a generic category, or it had already been removed from the temple years earlier. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. Ron Wyatt, an American Adventist and amateur archaeologist, claimed in 1982 to have discovered the Ark of the Covenant in a cave beneath the crucifixion site of Golgotha in Jerusalem, saying Christ's blood had dripped through a crack onto the Ark's mercy seat. His claim has been accepted by no credentialed archaeologist, no institution, and no government. He produced no photographs of the Ark itself, and the site has not yielded any confirmed discovery. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Ark of the Covenant. Where is the most dangerous object in history? This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that Graham Hancock, in his 1992 book The Sign and the Seal, argued that the Ark was taken to Ethiopia by Menelik I, son of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, during a visit to Jerusalem, transported first to the Elephantine Jewish community on an island in the Nile, and eventually to Axum. The theory draws on Ethiopian royal chronicles, the Kebra Nagast, and the documented presence of a Jewish temple at Elephantine in the 5th century BC. Critics note the Kebra Nagast was written in the 14th century AD. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence. But it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the Ark was seized by Nebuchadnezzar's forces in 586 BC and destroyed or lost in Babylon. The Babylonian Chronicles' failure to mention it may reflect categorization rather than absence. Treasures from conquered temples were routinely melted down or repurposed, and the Ark's gold overlay would have made it a valuable target. Under this theory, the Ark ceased to exist in 586 BC, and all subsequent searches are chasing a destroyed object. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the Ark was hidden beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem before the Babylonian invasion and remains there. Jewish tradition, codified in the Mishnah, holds that the Ark was hidden in a secret passage beneath the temple by King Josiah, who foresaw the conquest. The Temple Mount is under the administrative control of the Islamic Waqf Authority, and archaeological excavation beneath it is politically impossible under current conditions. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Ark of the Covenant, where is the most dangerous object in history, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence, as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the Ethiopian Orthodox Church's Aksum tradition is the most sustained institutional claim to the Ark's location. The Tabat, a replica Ark, is central to every Ethiopian Orthodox Church's ritual life, carried in procession during the festival of Timkat. This widespread liturgical practice rooted in Ark theology is consistent with a community that believes it possesses the original. However, the absolute prohibition on outside examination means no verification is possible. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented. Jeremiah 3:16 contains an unexpected passage in which God tells the prophet that in the future, the Israelites will no longer speak of the Ark or remember it or miss it. This verse has puzzled scholars. Why would the text predict indifference to the Ark's absence unless the Ark's fate was already known to be permanent at the time of writing? Some scholars read it as evidence that by Jeremiah's time, the Ark had already been removed or destroyed. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed no confirmed archaeological evidence places the Ark at any proposed location. Excavations at Mount Nebo have found Byzantine-era monasteries, but nothing predating the Christian period. The Elephantine Island Temple, which did exist as a Jewish religious site in the 5th century BC, was destroyed by Egyptian priests in 410 BC, long before Hancock's proposed timeline would place the Ark there. The evidence trail ends in 586 BC and does not resume. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. Question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Ark of the Covenant. Where is the most dangerous object in history? Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church's position has not changed. The guardian monk alone may view the Ark, and no outside access will be granted. Excavations beneath the Temple Mount remain politically impossible. Academic consensus holds that the Ark was most likely destroyed during the Babylonian conquest of 586 BC. The fascination has not diminished. The Ark remains one of the most searched-for objects in history, driving expeditions across Ethiopia, Jordan, Egypt, and Israel. Graham Hancock's theory brought the Ethiopian connection to mass audiences. The object itself, whether it still exists, whether it was ever what the Bible described, remains the greatest open question in biblical archaeology. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Ark of the Covenant. Where is the most dangerous object in history? From the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Ark of the Covenant ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.